Hey guys, this is Scott Payne from PM Master Prep. In this video, I'm going to teach you all about the project management foundations. Specifically, I'm going to tell you what defines a real project. And I'm going to teach you the 4 project creation criteria and how to understand the difference between portfolio, program, and project management. Additionally, after this video, you're going to watch your first case study. So you're going to meet John, you're going to see what situation he's thrown at, and you're really going to start to build your PMP expertise with the case story. So let's get started.
Okay, so let's jump in. So what is a project? We're going to get into the fundamentals, the foundations, right? This is chapter 3 of the PMBOK guide. So what is a project? A project is a temporary endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. Understand that this is going to be a question on the exam. PMIs are going to say, what is a project? A, B, C, and D are going to have some version of this definition. One's going to say a project is an endeavor undertaken to create a unique product, service, or result. We'll leave out the word temporary. Another one will leave out the word unique because all projects are temporary and they're unique. So you just have to pick the right definition. So this is the type of question you'll see on the exam. All right, so all projects are temporary, finite. Right? The projects drive the change and they enable value creation. No two projects are identical, and a project manager has to tailor their approach to meet the unique situations faced. So even in construction, you build the same building across the street, it's going to be very different from the one you built on the other side. So that's a project. So the need for a project is driven by 4 major factors. Responding positively to these factors is critical to an organization's ongoing success. So it could be regulatory, legal, or social requirements. You might just have to satisfy stakeholder requests or needs. That's the typical one, right? A customer request. To create, improve, or fix product processes or services. Those are usually internal projects that we do. And then these are also internal. Implement or change business or technological strategies. Right, so these are the four main factors for projects. Now, after identifying which project type you're gonna undertake, right, one of these 4 and the need for it, then a business case and a benefits management plan are typically developed and are evaluated upon, is this feasible? Should we spend the money to do it? So the business case, right, states what the objectives are. Usually some sponsor, right, someone in the E-team, the director or someone like that, comes up with the business case and says that, hey, this is the reason why the company should do it. Either going to need a market share or, increase revenue, something like that, some cost benefit, okay? Has to exceed the required investment. Doesn't have to, but I mean, hopefully your projects do. And then you'll have a go, no-go decision prior to chartering. All right, so the business case will come up. And then there should be some benefits management plan, all right? So this one's new, John. This wasn't in version 5. What you're really seeing here, and let me bring this over. You guys are getting my full library here today. So after project management, the next standard is program management, right? So this is actually, I'm working on this now. I'll get my PGMP in a few months here. And what I'm noticing PMI doing here is in program management, it's less about the scope, schedule, budget, and it's more about interdependent risk. And so I'm bringing this up, Ryan, because you mentioned that you guys are going to be managing this large program. So within this these interdependent risk, we talk about benefits and how we realize benefits and the sustenance, right? How do we sustain those benefits over time? So we're seeing here PMI bring into version 6 the idea that, hey, every project needs to benefit the company or the stakeholder or somebody in some manner. And so we need to have a plan that determines how will we get these benefits, when will they be delivered? And then how will they be measured? How will we sustain them? How will we turn them over into operations? How will we keep them going? So that's the benefits management plan. There's no knowledge area in the PMBOK guide for the benefits management plan as there is for, let's say, a scope or a cost or a schedule management plan. However, this is a new management plan for version 6. And it's going to become important because the business documents are typically inputs to processes. So I'm spending a lot of time on this one just because it's new and it's going to play a bigger role as sort of we move forward. All right, so the charter is the foundational document defining the key project components and formally authorizing the project's existence. So you know, with many companies, the charter is literally an email that got sent to you that says you've been assigned this project. For some people, the charter might be in a pipeline review, and we're having a quarterly business meeting or something like that, and the projects are assigned. And then sometimes they're very formal documents. So just understand from PMI, we talk about tailoring. All right, the charters are all over the place, but they all have the same intent, if you will. It should align our vision in terms of what are we trying to accomplish, right? How much money do we want to spend? How long do we think it's going to take? What are the high level risk? And then what's the business case? Why are we even doing this? We might lose money on this project, but we're going to gain a new customer who has 9 other projects for us down the road. Or maybe we're going to, you know, develop a new technological advancement, something like that. But we need to know what's the end goal of this project so that we can determine if it's successful. Because many times, just because you come in under budget, ahead of schedule, does not necessarily mean that your project is successful. So that's where the charter comes in. All right. Once the sponsor authorizes it, then the project exists, and that's where you as a PM get your level of authority. Now, it's not how it happens in a lot of companies. As a PM, your level of authority is kind of set by the organization, and when you're hired on or promoted into that role, you know what you can or cannot do. But remember, if we're talking about a one-off scenario, and for some of you all who have been acting as sort of the owner's rep in this one-off scenario, your authority is just for this project. So that's where it comes from. Right? We get our authority level. The project exists. We can apply company resources at this point once the project sponsor signs it. So the charter is the most important document. The very first process, the very first thing we do, we charter a project. The project management plan then takes that charter, right? If you take the integration knowledge area and you follow it, right, we get charter and then develop project management plan, manage project knowledge, right? And then we'll get, develop project management plan, then we'll get direct and manage the team, manage project knowledge. If you followed it across, it'll look something like this, where the project management plan takes that charter, those goals, and it turns them into plans. All right, so we fully develop it during the planning process group. There is a process called develop project management plan, but we won't actually create the full project management plan until we've completed all of the processes that we've chosen in the planning process group. All right, so it's fully developed at the end, and it's a bunch of multiple subsidiary plans and baselines. So plan scope management gives us a scope management plan and a requirements management plan. Those are subsidiary plans. If you take all of these subsidiary plans and then you take your baselines, the scope baseline, which will create scope statement, WBS dictionary, the schedule baseline, and the cost baseline, that becomes your project management plan. So what's interesting about PMI is that in the project management plan, your project schedule is not a part of the project management plan, right? So I should, let me back that up, because there's a schedule baseline. Let me say it like this. Your stakeholder register, that's not a part of the project management plan. Your risk register, not part of your project management plan, right? Just your risk management plan, your scope management plan, those are part of the project management plan, but those other 2 documents are just documents, they're registers, right? Our resource diagram that shows you the different resources, that would not be part of your project management plan. So the project management plan you can think of might be a folder on your desktop, and you open that folder, and in that folder, it might have one Word document that has multiple chapters, and each of those chapters outlines your approach to each of the knowledge areas, or it may have individual Word documents for each of those knowledge areas. That would be all of your subsidiary plans here. You may have a Visio diagram of your work breakdown structure on your scope baseline. You may have another Word document that has the scope statement, all right? And then your schedule baseline, you may have, it could be a PDF sheet. It could be a Gantt chart. That could be your schedule baseline. And then your cost baseline might be an Excel spreadsheet. All right, so if you take these 3 and you add them to the subsidiary plans, that becomes the project management plan for PMI, separate from the documents, separate from a project charter, separate from an approved change request. Even though those things are part of our project, they're not a part of the project management plan. So I'm harping on this now because it's something that confuses folks, and I'll harp on it again when we get to each of the individual plans. But just know that the project management plan is literally the how to the project. It has nothing to do with the what. It's just the how. How will we do stuff? It's our approach. It's our guide. You'll hear these terms. It's how we will proceed. So those are sort of the three terms. If you want to write these down now too, that you'll know when you're taking the exam that they're talking about a management plan. If you see the word guide, which of the following documents would act as your guide? If you see the word proceed, which of the following documents would determine how you're going to proceed? And if you see the word guide, proceed, and approach, which of the following documents outlines or defines your approach? So if you see those words, guide, approach, proceed, we're talking about a plan. So a cost management plan would not have estimates in it. It would say that for this particular project, we are going to use a parametric or an analogous estimating approach. And we're going to get our data sets from these sources. And we will use numbers up to, the cent, or we're going to round, right? It's a how. It's your guide, right? And that's true for all of these plans. It's all these plans are guides. It's your how, it's your management style, it's your approach. And then success measures, right? This should be in the charter, and it should also be in the scope statement that defines very clearly how we will measure the success of the project, right? So that way everybody knows what our expectations are for evaluation. Like, this is how we're going to be tested. If I know how I'm going to be tested, then I can make a project to beat the test, and the test is just a formality. That's the idea. So just to tie this into Agile that we were talking about earlier, there's something called test-driven development, where when they write code, they write the test for the code first, then they write the code to beat the test. And if it beats the test, great. So it's sort of like it's just a formality, and you get the cleanest code written in those scenarios. Well, that's the same here when we're looking at how we measure success. If we can put that in our charter and in our scope statement, then we know what that test is going to be for success, and then we can build in processes to beat that test. So there could be financial measures, there could be schedule measures. These are non-financial. It could be, hey, just what's the acceptance testing? Do we like this? Does you did it to spec, you did it within schedule, you did it under budget, but for some reason the stakeholder doesn't accept it, right? So then you're not successful. So there's different ways that we measure project success. It just needs to be for the exam, and in the practical application of this, it should be clearly defined somewhere, whether it's the charter, the scope statement, or both. All right, so what does success look like? How will we measure it? And what factors might impact that success? And then when we look at data and information management, this is all about how we as PMs collect the data that our team members give us. So the raw observations and measurements. This is the idea that I'm a team member on a project, and I've logged 37 hours this week, and I've completed X amount of work. That's the data that we as PMs, we then take and we turn it into information. So information about the schedule will sit in some file in our desktop somewhere. Information about the budget will sit somewhere else, right? So we got data from team members on the schedule and budget, and we turn it into information in different parts. Information in terms of what's our progress? Are we ahead or behind, over or under? All right, we'll take all of this data from the team members, even on testing, quality control testing, and we'll look at our metrics. All that is data, and we'll turn it into information. And that information will generate a report. We'll make a chart or a graph, or we might even just write a paragraph, but we'll make some type of report that tells people what the information is and guides them along a path to make some sort of decision or some action to take. All right, so that's the idea of the work performance report. Now that work performance report is sitting on your laptop, your desktop. When you actually send it out, push it out to somebody, it becomes a project communication. You might put it on SharePoint for people to come and pull, then it becomes a project communication. All right, so if I added a number 4, I would put project communications because that's an output. When we get to the process managed communications, we'll take a report as an input, and we'll get a project communication as an output. So I just want you to sort of conceptualize this in your head. Team members come to you with data. We collect that, we write it down, we have tallies, but it's just raw numbers. It doesn't mean anything. We take that data and we parse it out. We parse it out and we analyze it in context of the particular knowledge area we're talking about. It becomes information that's useful. We take that information and then we generate some report, whether it's a chart or a graph or some document. And now that report gives you the information about the data pertaining to the goals of our project, and we'll send that report out to some people. Some people will present it very formally with a PowerPoint deck. We might, provide them with a hard copy. For some people, we'll put it on SharePoint. For some people, we'll email it out. For some people, we'll summarize it and, take snippets, et cetera, et cetera. So that's the idea. Data becomes information. Information becomes a report, and that report then is sent out as project communication. So that's the idea of PMI. But for the data and information, it's work performance data, work performance information, work performance report. Those are the three types that we have. And ultimately, this report will become a project communication. And then projects versus operations management, right? Project management can complement operations management by looking at two things, all right? First thing is that the daily operation is outside of project scope. So keep that in mind when you're writing your paragraphs, right? Anything that is sort of operational that you're doing all the time and you're repeating it, right? That's outside the scope of a project and it will be rejected from PMI. I'm combining kind of two ideas there. Anyways, the idea here is that operations outside the scope of a project, but they can occur when you're looking at improving some processes. You might have a process improvement project to improve operations, or you might have a project that updates new technology. Maybe we go from an on-prem email server to Office 365 in the cloud, right? So, that might improve functions for the business, right? So that's where project and operations management may flow together. And I think all of you are doing some sort of this today. Pretty familiar with this. All right, so OPM, or organizational project management. This is the idea that you have a PMO, right? And it might be a portfolio, a program, or a project management office. This training is not really going to get into the three different types, right? Because this is project management. There is a program management certification or portfolio management, but I will tell you this. At the portfolio level, it follows strategy. It follows the idea that strategically, this is where the organization is headed. We're either downsizing, we're either hiring new people, we're either staying in the industry, et cetera. Like, what are we doing, right? And then based on what we're doing, then we're going to have some objectives to meet those goals, right? And those objectives become the programs. And so we might have a virtualization program, a process improvement program, and we might have even a hiring program. And then each of those programs will have multiple components or projects to, help establish that. And some of these programs, the project might even just be administrative. It might even just be overhead to help the other projects, right? So, portfolio, the idea is we have strategy, which links down to benefits at the program level, which boils down to objectives at the project level. And that's how PMI sees it. They go from strategy to benefits to objectives at each level. All right, so portfolio and program management both help. Portfolio managers usually are looking at, okay, which program should we select and where should we allocate, even though it has program managers in allocating resources across projects, portfolio managers will allocate resources across programs as well. That bullet point is not there, but they'll determine how much they're going to fund a program. We'll say, okay, we'll give this program $40 million, and then it's up to the program manager to take that $40 million and then allocate it across those various components.
All right, we just completed the Project Management Foundation video. Let's summarize what we just learned. The first thing we talked about is what actually defines a project. It's very simple. It is a temporary endeavor that drives change and enables value creation. And also remember that every project must be tailored to meet the unique situation that project faces. So tailoring is very, very important. Now, as we move forward, we want to talk about the 4 project creation criteria. Now, any one of these project criteria could initiate a project, and let's go through them. So the first one is the regulatory, legal, or social requirements. Number 2 is to satisfy stakeholder requests or needs. And the third one is to create, improve, or fix products, processes, or services. And the fourth is to implement changes to business or technical strategies. So as we move forward, we also discussed the foundational project documents. These are the key documents that are going to be used as we initiate our project. They're really important. So they're the business case, the project benefits management plan, the charter, and the project management plan that we're going to develop a little bit later. As we go forth, I want to implore you to really focus on the importance of project success measures, both on the PMP exam and in your own projects. The 3 questions you want to ask yourselves are, what does success look like? How will it be measured? And what factors may impact success? Those are the three questions that we must ask ourselves before a project starts, because that's going to help us define success. It's just that simple. Now, the last thing we talked about was the difference between portfolio and program management. Now, portfolio is higher than program management. Portfolio is more strategic. The focus is selecting the right program or projects to support the strategic objectives. And program management falls below that, and it's focused on completing or making sure that the project managers complete the programs and projects in the right way. So they're complementary, they work together, and they're essential. So know the difference between those two. So what is our next step? Our next step is to go in and watch your first case story and answer the questions. Now there's a video. You're going to watch a short video, and it's going to introduce you to John and the rest of the company at Alliance International. So it's very, very important that you go in, you watch the video, you take notes, and you answer the question. It's going to question you on portfolio and project management, what the creation criteria was, and it's going to get you into the swing of things. These scenarios in the case study are what is going to help you really build your skills. So go in, enjoy it, get involved. I'll see you again on the next video when I give you the answers to the case story. See you soon.